Welcome to the Stir It Up podcast, where our purpose is to encourage, challenge, lift up, and stir up the body of Christ to love and good works. Hello, and welcome to the Stir It Up podcast. I'm Michelle Dowdy.
And I'm Starla Harbin.
And we're so excited, happy to have Bonnie Keene with us today.
Yes.
So welcome, Bonnie. Thank you so much for taking the time for us
today.
Thank
you so much for making the time. I'm just really excited to be with you. Really am. Thank you.
That's so good. Well, just by way of introduction, in case people don't know who you are, I want to just hit a few highlights and then we're going to talk about all these things. But you are a 3-time Dove Award winner, Grammy nominee, member of First Call that people will no doubt remember. We were just talking, I was obsessed with First Call, back in those days. So you performed on some of the biggest stages in the world, really, the Tonight Show and on the Grammy stage and all these things. And then you've continued with your own solo career, after those days came to an end. You're an author, you're a speaker, you have a podcast. You are a very productive woman and, have continued to just contribute to the body of Christ throughout all these years. And, so we're just glad to talk to you today and get to know you better. Well, Bonnie, let's just kind of go back to your beginning. And I know you're in Nashville now. You've been there for many years, but was that where you grew up or did you grow up somewhere else?
I was born in Nashville. I'm a Nashville native. There aren't many of us.
Wow.
So I've traveled a lot, but lived here all of my life. And grew up in a very simple home, very blue collar. It was a tumultuous home that I grew up in. There was a lot of high-pitched messages that were difficult, a lot of physical discipline that was really over the top, and in a very legalistic church that taught me that it was wrong to sing about your faith with an instrument on stage. So it's interesting to me. I always look at how I grew up, and I want to overlay that with there's been lots of forgiveness that I've learned over the years, but I was really beaten down a lot as a child, physically and emotionally. And in the middle of that, God just started pouring music into my life at a very young age. And I think that's how I first discovered who God was the beauty of harmony and melody, hymns, the truth of hymns. And God started saving me from that, really at 4 and 5 years old, from all the chaos going on around me. And I've always seen music as very much a gift and a lifeline. That was my first experience with knowing the beauty of Christ,
Is that when you realized at that age, 4 and 5, that you had a gifting, or was it later?
Yeah, I mean, I was picking out songs by ear on a piano. I'd hear something and go over and pick it out on this little piano we had. And my mom noticed that I had a real ear for music. So I started studying classical piano when I was 6 and studied for 13 years. You would not know that now if you heard me play the piano, but I loved it. And I played the flute. I started doing musical theater and found that was my gifting early on in life. Yeah. Started writing songs when I was 8.
Was your family musical, or was that just something that came to you?
It's just really wild. Nobody else, they kept saying, what are you actually going to do for a living? I said, this is it. Everybody loves music to a certain degree, but I was the only one that had ever had been given that gift as professionally and to do that as a life work and a ministry. Yeah.
Yeah. So growing up in Nashville, you were just immersed in all that, I guess, from the very beginning too. Every corner you're on, turn around, there's music there in Nashville.
There's country music, there's all kinds of music here. But having been taught it was wrong theologically, I didn't know anything about Christian music, contemporary Christian music, Southern gospel music. I knew nothing about that world at all. And once again, God in his mercy, like I was singing in clubs. I was singing 5 nights a week in smoky clubs, top 40 music, trying to make enough money to go to school. I wanted to study to be an actor at one point, to be into musical theater. I thought that might be my profession, but I didn't know anything about the Christian music business. And my next door neighbor ended up being Amy Grant's manager. And he called me up one day and said, "We're putting this girl on the road, this young girl with a band and with singers. Would you like to go on tour?" And I went, "Great, work." I'd never heard
Right.
I know I was so clueless.
Yeah.
I'd never
Yeah.
heard of her. And to be on stage, my first experience with a Christian concert was being on stage, singing background
Wow.
vocals for her. And I remember standing there crying with gratitude, realizing you could sing about your faith in this kind of genre. And God just has always taken me into places I didn't know existed and said, "Here, let me show you what can really
Wow.
happen." So, yeah. And then I was on the road with Russ Taff for years. I'd never heard of the Imperials. I had no idea what was going on. And then when I met Marty McCall in First Call, he had a group called Fireworks, which is huge. I'd never heard of Fireworks. I mean, it's just been a lifetime of educating, and just so much mercy in it. So
Just,
much mercy.
yeah. Sounds like the Lord just really just directing your steps there and
Every
guiding
step.
you into where he wants you to be.
Absolutely. With me having no idea, really.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah,
then to think about all the people you've encouraged with those songs, just
Mhm.
so many. I mean, we're talking about the excellent musicianship and just the quality of
Mhm.
the musicianship in those days. But those were
yeah,
some powerful songs that were being written back then. And,
yeah,
you just think about that
yeah.
was really a heyday, I guess, if you
Mhm.
will, in
Yeah, I think it was like a
music.
Renaissance time in Nashville, especially in the Christian music industry. We were all just like trying to be as creative and theologically sound. I know First Call, we were
Mm.
always talking about how can we relate the deepest parts of our theology in the most creative way musically, and always pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves to do that better and better. And I'm just really glad that the music has stood the test of time. I think people are still discovering it. The harmonies are extremely difficult, and
Yeah.
just such a gratifying process to actually work that hard and have it sound like that. So I'm very
Did
grateful.
y'all do your own vocal arrangements or did you, oh, you're going to ask, okay, or
Yeah.
did someone do your vocal arrangements or like, how did y'all, especially like,
Yeah,
Something Takes Over, a song like that was just like, you can't even hardly that
crazy.
fast,
Right.
and you're spitting out those lyrics.
Absolutely. Yeah. The three of us didn't know each other until we were beginning to be called in Nashville to sing. We were all three doing a lot of studio work, singing background vocals on other people's projects, country records, Christian artist records. And we met each other because we were being called together. The three of us had a really unique sound, and we started to share our hearts just over the course of time. And we all discovered we had a real passion to follow Christ. And then we were like, we have an interesting sound. This could be marketable. So
Yeah.
it's funny, who's the alto in the group? She said, why don't we pool all of our resources, all of our contacts that the three of us have with producers, and let's market ourselves and see if we can get even more work. So we sat down and we decided to call ourselves First Call because that's a term that's used in the music business for the first players you call, the first string
That's
player,
right.
guitar player, vocalist, kind of a presumptuous name, but we thought let's call ourselves First Call because we also have a calling to follow Christ first. So it had a
Right,
double
that double
meaning.
meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, but we just started getting all this work, and we were working. They do sessions at a 10 o'clock, a 2 o'clock, and a 6 o'clock here in Nashville. We were doing 10 2 6, 10 2 6 together almost
Wow.
every day. And then Word Records asked us to record Evening in December, which was an all a cappella
I love
Christmas
that.
project. We
Mhm.
went, well, just put our names on the back, people loved that project. And David Maddox, this brilliant arranger, did all those arrangements. He sang the bass on on the record. And then Sandy Patty wanted us to go on tour with her. So we were offered a record deal because of that tour. And then it was like number one. All these things started happening. The Dove Award, Best Artist of the Year, like all these things that we didn't anticipate. Once again, very much a theme in my life, but definitely in First Call's
Right.
journey. We didn't
So
know that we would be doing this full time. But when we decided to really embrace what God was leading us into, we did a lot of the arrangements ourselves. We also had incredibly gifted producers and
Mhm.
arrangers, David Maddox, Greg Nelson, Keith Thomas, Michael Omardian, Daryl Brown, these incredible artists in their own right, really, as producers and arrangers. So it was a constant learning process and being pushed. Now, David Maddox wrote Something Takes Over.
Wow. Okay.
He's one of these brilliantly talented men who will, like, I know in one of the meetings we had with Word about the songs to put, the Christmas songs to use on Evening in December, the record label guy said, "What about this?" And he just threw out a title. And David was just sitting in the room, no keyboard, nothing there, just sitting on the couch. And he sat there for a second. And he went, "Okay, I got it." And he arranged it in his head. Like
In his head.
it's a freak, a brilliant, brilliant man, a genius. But he came, we did a session together on somebody else's record. And we went out into the parking lot one day and David said, "Hey, I got this great idea for the next album. This song called Something Takes Over." And he said, "It's kind of weird. Just hang on with me." And he started singing it to us in the, how fast that goes.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
we were just staring at him and we're like, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah, trust me, this is going to be so wonderful." And
Yeah.
then, it was really tough to
Yes. It is so clever. I
and
mean, the
we
lyrics are so clever and
were
meaning,
fun. I
so
know.
impactful too.
And really crazy, crazy hard to sing. But he led us through, it was like taking a master class to work with him.
Mm.
That's the way I feel about almost everybody that we collaborated with. It was like this massive learning experience.
Mm.
But yeah, that was wild. And we did that song live in concert quite often over the
And
years.
another thing y'all did was the Young Messiah.
Yes, yes, I'm so glad you asked.
Mark and I saw that a couple of times.
You did. Did you see
Yes,
the second
live.
version?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes,
that was
yes.
my
That
That
was
was my
favorite.
fun.
favorite version.
Mine too. I think hands down, those were the best arrangements,
Yes,
and
yes.
the artists were just spectacular. That was one of the
Yeah.
highlights of my life. Honestly, I'll
I'll
always.
ask one question too.
Okay, Mark
Yeah,
has a question.
ask.
It's actually more of a thought. It's two thoughts.
All
So in,
right.
in September, October 1988, Michelle and I were living in Nashville at that point after we
Okay.
just got married, and we came to Belmont one night. You guys were there doing a little. It was in this little small, almost like a
Yeah.
classroom theater kind of deal there,
Yeah. Point
and
in
you
eight.
and y'all were so first call was there. You guys were doing this little like a
Oh,
thing for
I
one of the
remember.
music classes. And a friend of ours had invited us that was actually attending Belmont at that time to come out and see. And it was funny because you guys were doing like this little skit, kind of a day in the life of First Call, and you put on
Oh my
headphones.
word! I'd forgotten about that.
He remembers
We did.
everything.
We did a studio. We did a kind of a thing about more.
Yeah,
No,
and you would do sort of a day in the life where it's like you'd be like singing,
you're
you'd sing a
right.
phrase, then you'd say, what are you going to the grocery store after this today? You'd sing another phrase. And it's like, uh,
That's
and,
right.
I
That's
was
right.
thinking, that is so cool, because I mean, of
Oh,
course, I've been in the music business for a long time, and I know the studio. As a matter of fact, it's funny. Our daughter, we went to Nashville a few years ago to do overdubs on something I was working on, I was producing, um, and somebody, so I took we took the kids and the whole deal, and she's sitting in the studio, and they're like, well. Macy, that's her name. They said, "Are you like really like blown away with this?" And she said, "No, we've got one of these at our house." And and
yeah,
so
got one of those. I
so
love
fun,
it.
it's just kind of like a day in the life of, but it's so cool because, when you look in from the outside, and most people never get to sort of, they always want to know what goes on behind the scenes.
Oh yeah, a
You
year
told
with
a
the
story
band.
one time about when you guys were working with Keith Thomas, and
Yes,
there was a
yes.
certain song, and I cannot remember the song, but you kept going out to you would go out to the studio where he was, you'd show him the song, and he's like, "No, I hear more of an eat ya, ite ya kind of thing," and
Pizza, pizza.
yep, yep,
Yeah,
and yeah,
yeah, yes.
and
Oh my
and I
God,
remember that
you know
because that
everything about
album,
my life. Oh my word.
yeah,
Um,
but that album for you guys was like, working with Keith was like a turning point in your sound. It was like another kind of phase to your sound. And so,
Absolutely. Oh my
yeah.
word, Mark. I wish I could see you right now, like in person. Yeah. Uh, I have a strong theater background. Marty had some theater in his back. We all three of us, I think we said, how can we just do something really unusual live about what it's like in the studio? And Mel
Mhm.
came up with that piece of music, more than something, more than you hear, more than meets the eye, more than meets the eye. Oh my word. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, because that is what it's like in the studio. You sing and think, what are you doing later tonight? Yeah, have you got no, I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Right.
And we
Yeah.
all had little
In
small
between.
children, really
Oh,
little children at the same time. And I potty trained my daughter on the bus, it was like a nightmare. But we were always, that's what it's like in the studio. Yeah, absolutely. And then Keith, you're exactly right. Hugely pivotal. Our first few projects, our first four albums were very vocally intricate and more inspirational-ish, but there was some pop flavor and everything. And then Keith said, let's do an album that really gets you into more of the pop market even more. And so I thought it took the best parts of all of that. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
he is, and I mean, I saw him a few weeks ago. I think he's one of my favorite people in the whole world. And to learn from him, yeah, he's somebody that will get a song in his head from every instrument that he knows is going to play on it, every vocalist. He knows how every line works together and how every ad lib works with the bass line. I mean, like everything's like
Yep.
this incredible matrix.
Absolutely.
So he
Yes.
would definitely say, yeah, this is the vowel sound I want there, or this is the. I remember working with him was so challenging because I don't know if I told this story that night, but I don't think I would have. I can tell it now. But he wanted, and I've learned this, he wanted us to open different sounds in our voice that we hadn't tried. And we were like, why? We like what we're doing. No, no, let's just stretch you, which is good. You always want to be learning as an
Yeah.
artist.
Sure.
So when I did one of my solos, and it was kind of a lower part of my voice because I'm soprano in the group, and he said, I want you to sing this solo with a huge sweet tart in your mouth. I mean, one of those huge, not the little ones, the big ones. I said, no. He goes, yeah, trust me. I go, no. So second engineer would bring this huge sweet tart to me, and I had to keep it in my mouth and sing around it. Sort of like Eliza Doolittle in My Fair Lady. It was like the marbles, and when it started to melt, he'd send them out with another one. And I was like, I was like,
that's a new one to
It's a
me.
new
this
trend.
went
Yeah.
on, this went on for like an hour and a half. The same four lines with this huge sweet tart.
Did it
And every time
work?
I hear the song, I can recognize that it's different. But it was a very cool vibe he got out of me. But I remember learning from
Maybe
him.
off camera you can tell what song it was when we get
Oh,
off.
I'll tell you. Well, wait. I have to think about it. It's the Michael W. Smith, Paul. What was it? I'll think of it. It's on the God is Good record. But I learned so much from Keith. He worked on all three of our first solo albums and has always been a dear friend. But he's a maestro. He's a master at what he does. You know.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
So
and you have such a distinctive voice, when just a solo voice. So how was it like blending? And y'all had such an incredible blend. But is it like, did you have to work at blending, or does that come just sort of naturally, to the
but
blend of y'all?
all three of us, that's a really good question. All three of us sound very different
Mhm.
as when we do a solo work. But when we sang together, we were so loud. Number one, we were loud. So like a massive amount of energy going to the tape. I always stood in the middle when we were on one mic because I was the softest of the three of us, which is kind of funny. But Marty, this brilliant tenor, I think so much of the time, Mel and I would lock in, especially on unison notes with him, and we had this really great unison together. But
Yeah.
we just ended up being very versatile together, and it worked. And I credit God with all of that. There,
Mhm.
we were not looking to do what we did. We weren't looking to start a vocal group. I also think it was really the perfect timing as far as second chapter of Acts had kind of stopped touring. The Imperials had kind of like there was kind of this open window for another vocal trio
Yes.
group to come into onto the scene, and people seemed to really enjoy the Manhattan Transfer kind of jazz
Yes.
pop thing that we were doing. And then it was so rewarding to be able to write about our faith and to entertain at the same time. I think we did both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
and that's important to do both. But yeah, I'm constantly as I get older amazed at what God did in bringing the three of us together, and we're
yeah.
still very close. We're still like family. Marty's in DC. He's been there for quite a while. Mel's moved in and out of town. She's back in town, but we're family. We always will be. Yeah.
Well, that's so neat to hear some behind the scenes
Yeah.
about that and just your
Yeah.
memories of that, because that's a, even in our lives, just that music
Mhm.
was so important. So,
That's
um,
so nice. Thank you for saying that. That means a lot. Thank you.
well, let's move kind of into what you're doing now in this latest project. I mean, you've continued to do music on your own, and you've got a great new project. It's Bonnie Keene, right?
But
Self-titled.
it's easy to remember. You can find it anywhere. It's just my name. Yeah.
Right.
And you've got some great songs on there and some remakes of things. And then you wrote, I noticed you did write most of the things, or maybe all of the other things that are on
Eight of
there
the
that aren't the
12.
cover things. Yeah.
Yeah, 8 of the 12. Yeah, I will just do a quick segue from the original trio in First Call. Mel left the group after 5 albums to start her own ministry with her husband. And
Mhm.
Marty and I brought in another alto, and we recorded another 5 years with her. And we did the Young Messiah tour with her. And then she became involved with a very high profile artist. They were both married, broke up both of their marriages. We basically lost our record deal overnight because it was a national scandal. And again, with an overlay of a lot of grace and forgiveness that God has worked in my heart and our hearts. But Marty and I lost everything after 10 years. We were looking at each other and didn't know if we were going to have a ministry after that. And in God's great mercy, Warner Alliance signed us to a duet group, a duo group as First Call. And some people may not even know those projects. They're really strong. The
Mhm.
ones we did, Marty and I did with guest artists and the two of us duets. So we recorded another 5 years and toured another 10 years together. And then at the end of that time, I began to record my own first solo record. And I've been writing some books. And Marty began to do his own projects. And so this new album is my fourth solo project. And it came quite unexpectedly right after 2020, when I had gone through a really devastating time in my personal life, a divorce, and looking around and pretty much didn't think I would ever do another recording.
Mhm.
And my wonderful producer, Larry Hall, who's been a great friend for many years, he and his wife, Susan, came up to me one night and Larry said, "It's been a while since I had done 3 solo projects." He said, "You haven't done one in a while. Why don't we do one together?" And it was such a gift of mercy in my life at that point to think I could actually keep singing and writing and have some kind of impact for the kingdom after a lot of stuff. And
Mhm.
it was such a beautiful gift, this project. And I've written 8 songs on the record and I have 4 covers. And I'm just thrilled beyond words to be able to tell you about it and just to share it because I think it's powerful and I want it to encourage the body, and to really challenge the body more than ever, the body of Christ.
Right. And
Yes.
yeah, I think those lyrics, I mean, you have some really deep and meaningful
Mhm.
lyrics and just I would encourage people to go download it, go listen
Yeah.
wherever you listen. Gethsemane Brave, I think that was one of the first
Mhm.
things maybe you put out. So t give us a little flavor of
Yeah.
that. Tell us about that
Yeah.
song, how that came about. It's a
Gethsemane
unique
Brave.
concept.
Yeah, thank you. I've wrestled for a while with wanting to write about Gethsemane and the courage it took Christ to ask God 3 times, is there any other way? Can this cup pass from me? Is there any other way? But if not, let your will be done and not mine. That kind of courage and humility has always just deeply moved me to want to live like that more. So I wanted to write a song that was Gethsemane, that moment, brave, that courage. So the suffering courage, tension was what I wanted to try to write about. And it took me a while to finally finish that song. And I didn't want it to be a ballad, Christ in the garden. I wanted it to be a
Yeah.
call. I wanted it to be a driving rock kind of
Yes.
call. And I just loved the way it came together. And then Phil Keggy, this was the last song we finished on the project. Phil Keggy is a dear friend. He and Bernadette, I love them so much, but he's never played on a First Call project and never played on any of mine. And Larry called him and said, "Would you play on this song?" And Phil just did a magnificent job with the guitars. Oh my goodness. And then we went to his house and filmed a video. And then uh, Christian International, what's it called? CSI. They work with persecuted church around the world.
Okay.
Okay.
Christian Solidarity International. They have a
Okay.
USA version and it's csi.usa.org. They do tremendous work. I mean, if you hear about like the persecution that's going on in Nigeria right now, they're killing so many Christians in Sudan. They are on the ground helping these people all over the world. It's amazing. So they heard about the song and they wanted to use it and let me do a video to try to spread the word about their organization, which has been really a wonderful thing to be part of. But I just want in this hour for the church to live more courageously and to be willing to suffer because in our culture we don't talk about suffering very much. We talk about, all the good things and we do believe God for those. But I think he's also calling us to be willing to go further into being uncomfortable in some conversations and in some ways of sharing the gospel in Christ than we have been before. Because I think the pushback against Christian values is risen more in the last few years. So I hope this song is just a call to live courageously, to be willing to suffer for Christ and
Mhm.
to take it on the chin here and there more than ever.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that song has been really satisfying to write about. And then I wrote a song, another one called Cry Like a Bell, and it's to raise awareness about sex trafficking that's going on with children.
Mhm.
It's like cry like a bell into the night. Somebody's daughter, somebody's son is waiting for somebody to pray for freedom for them. And I don't really ever hear the church much to address the fact that we have this incredible war going on against children and the trafficking that's going on worldwide, and especially in the US, is just devastating. So I kind of wanted, and there again, I wanted to write a song that was like a little bit theatrical, painting a portrait of a
Mhm.
young girl and boy, and like they're just waiting for us to fight back however we can, to be part of answering that call. So I was able to write about some kind of heavier things
Yes.
on the
Yes.
album. And also, then I wrote a great song, I think, for my grandbabies that I wanted them to be able to hear all of their life called God Will Love You. And
Yes.
it's and a lot of adults are contacting me about that song, which is really sweet because I didn't know how it would come across. It's very simple, but it's just basically God is going to love you through every season of your life. He's going to
Mhm.
be there. And
Yeah. Really
anyway,
sweet. Sweet
yeah,
song. Yeah.
thank you.
Sweet, simple, like you said, but profound,
Mm,
meaning. So,
yes. So
So I hope
outside of
so.
your vocal accomplishments and those rich lyrics that you have, you're also an author of 3 books, and you're being really transparent in your latest book about a struggle, a time with depression,
Yeah.
and that was a challenging time of your life. So give us a little flavor of what the book is about.
Yeah, I was really blessed to write 3 books with Harvest House Publishers. My first one was from my journals. I was like, I'm going to publish my journals. But it was about divorce recovery. And in the middle of that, I touched on going through a real dip, which is a clinical depression. When I was on the Young Messiah tour, actually, that's when the second tour, I really hit a wall. And I didn't know anything about depression. When came time for my third book, Harvest House said, "You need to write about depression." And I said, "No, no, no. Yes, yes." I said, "I don't want to." And it took me 2.5 years to write this little book, but it's basically an overview of how depression has been a part of the human condition all through the Bible, all through humanity. It's nothing new to God and nothing for us to not be willing to look at. And you can be healed from it. It's called The Ladder Out of Depression. It's really pretty much a simple overview of my journey of how I was helped
Mm,
spiritually, physically, and emotionally to get through that season. And I have a great compassion for people that deal with that because it's really uh, you lose perspective when you're in that kind of darkness. But I think this book has really spoken to a lot of people that are caregivers or friends of someone that's going through depression, and also the people that actually are living with some of that darkness. So, and I'm working on another book right now to just kind of touch on some of the abuse that I've never spoken about it much until this album. For some reason, it's coming up a lot. And I think there are a lot of people that probably deal with healing from that, that I want
Sure.
to encourage. I want to encourage. So we'll see what happens with that.
Well, I know that it will definitely be a help to people. You know, they can identify with real people, real stories, and real life. And I think we have to be real, whether we've been through heartache or brokenness. Um,
Yeah.
they can look at us and think, oh, they've got it all together, but they just don't know so many times
Yeah.
where it comes from. So,
And it does take a lot to be transparent, to
yes.
share those deepest parts of yourself. And I'm sure you interwoven in there, I'm sure is a lot of biblical wisdom and all
Yeah.
of that
Yes.
as well. And so I know that people can go on Amazon and get that,
Yes.
can
It's on
they?
Amazon.
Okay.
It's on my, yes. And I have a website that's easy to find. Yeah, that's my prayer. Thank you for that encouragement, because sometimes I think, why in the world am I opening a vein and sharing the underbelly of my life? But really, that's what life, I think, here is about for us, those of us that follow Christ, is that
Right.
He has healed and redeemed those places that are just very real. When you're living this side of heaven, you're going to hit walls, you're going to have disappointments and moments of betrayal or whatever. And the Word of God will take us through those times if we'll let it, and the Spirit of God will lead us on. But I feel like part of my ministry is to be that open, and some days I wish it wasn't. But
Right, right.
it also takes the power out of what's happened when I can just say, look, this is what life offered me, and this
Mhm.
is what God did with it. So
Mm,
yeah,
that's
that's my
good.
prayer.
I know you're just an
Good.
encouragement to
Yes.
so many for sure. There was something we were talking about. I had come across this study that was done a few years ago, and it said the most productive stage in a person's life is actually between 60 and 70 years old.
Really?
And yes, because
Love
and then
that.
started going through all these stats, Nobel Prize winners, the average
Wow.
age is 62, average
Wow.
age of presidents of prominent companies in the world is 63. Uh,
Wow. That's
Average age of
cool.
a pastor of the largest 100 churches in America, 71. So just all these stats of people who, like, between the ages of about 60 and 70 are being their most productive.
Mhm.
And I
Oh,
thought there
man.
is a difference, I think, between busyness and
Yeah.
productivity. Like when you reach that, like the stage that we're all in, you have those 10,000 hours of expertise in something, or you've been
Yeah.
through things, and um you have that wisdom to share. And so those, I can see how, okay, those are the productive
Right.
years, whereas when we're raising children and we're just, there are tasks that have to be done that keep us busy. We may say, well, we were busy, but I think that's what I see in your life, is like, wow, there's a lot of productivity,
Right.
you're
You know,
still doing these uh,
That is such a
you-
gift to hear that right now, because I think in our industry, I think, you look at the country market or the pop market, and you've got Sting and you've got Bonnie Raitt and you've got Dolly, and like older artists, they're still revered. But I think in the Christian market, it's less that way. And you tend
right.
to
yeah,
feel like, should I still be trying to record? Should I still be writing? And
Right.
all those things are still there. And I'm still singing quite a bit here locally. And I'm like, I still have my voice. I still have this wealth of what God has done in my life redemptively, and songs in me. So, but
mhm,
sometimes it's like hard to push against that, but you're too old, or you've had your day. So
right,
that's really nice to hear those stats. That's a great gift to hear right now.
yeah, yeah, it was encouraging to me too.
Yeah.
All of
No,
us.
I call
I'm
it
not there
access in my
yet.
life.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
I'm
like
approaching.
Yeah,
my
we're
best friend, Nan Gurley, who I've been friends with for over 40 years. She and I have a podcast. We have
Yes.
a wannabe podcast like yours. But yours is so beautiful. We're still trying to get all of our aesthetics together. But we talk about being in act three of our lives, and how nobody wants to retire. I don't want to retire. I want to
right,
go from
right.
this life
Mark
to the
says that
next
all
with my
the time.
boots on,
Right.
Yeah,
doing what I do with all the energy that God allows.
Mhm.
And I don't want to back up. I don't want to back off.
That's
yeah.
right.
So yeah,
Well, the
on.
Bible never talks about retirement. I don't
But
think ever.
nothing.
We're
No,
just we have the
no,
same
absolutely.
uh, you know, commission that we had when we were 25,
That's
as Christians. I mean, we're
Well, I like the thought of you
moving
guys
forward.
pouring into younger women now too, which is so needed. That's
right.
really wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Bible study that you wrote with Nan.
Man, she is an incredibly accomplished actor, and we have been on the stage off and on together all of our lives almost. We started working together when we were 20 years old, and we
Mm.
did sketch comedy like Saturday Night Live kind of skits and stuff like that. We did sketch comedy that parodied bad theology for a while in a group called Vidalia. Like we were signed to the label that had Michael W. Smith. We were one of the first albums they signed, this group that we were in, and nobody knows about that album. Nobody bought it. But we have collaborated together on stage and done theater productions in Nashville, and then we have a passionate love for the word.
Mm.
So I think it was like 2009 or 2010. I said, Nan, let's write a two-woman musical we can do anywhere, with one piece of scarlet material that represents the blood of Christ that runs from the Old and the New Testament. We can step on and off of that piece of material and interact as different women in the Word who just meet up with each other, like uh, Deborah on her way to battle, Esther on her way to the king. They run into each other. They have an interchange. Then they sing. Like, let's do this kind of thing and see what happened. And we call it Women Who Dare to Believe.
Mm.
So we wrote this musical, we toured the musical, and while we were working on the research, we were finding so much material. I said, let's write a Bible study. So we
Mm.
wrote a 2-semester study that goes with the musical.
Oh, wow.
And we were doing that for about 10, 12 years. And then when COVID kind of stopped everybody down, we
Yeah.
looked at each other and went, we don't know what we're doing, but why don't we try a podcast? So we finding out, and I'm not good with tech, as you know, trying to get on the Zoom call. But we've been doing a podcast for the last few years with this, just focusing in on each woman, how they're not dusty icons. They have so much to tell us now. And so we have a podcast called Women Who Dare to Believe. It's on YouTube, it's on all the streaming platforms. We would love for some other women to check it out and tell us what they think.
Absolutely.
Yes, we hope
Yes.
our listeners will do that. Yeah.
I think that's a common theme. We don't know what we're doing. Let's do a podcast.
Yes.
I'm telling you, that's just exactly
We
what
didn't
how it
either.
started. But you do know what you're doing.
Well, we've been
Beautiful.
at it about a year.
About a year.
We're
Yeah.
right at a year.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. I applaud you. It takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
still kind of figuring it out. But you kind of alluded to what maybe a theme you thought maybe the body of Christ, like maybe what's the Lord working with us on right now, or what are you seeing sort of happening in the body? Is there something you're seeing out there?
Yeah, I'm sure we all are watching what's going on and it's like we have too much information every day. But um, I think that number one, not to be Debbie Downer, but I'm appalled at the onslaught of attack against children,
Mm.
both
Mm-hmm.
abortion and then the attack when they're really young on their sexuality,
Yes.
and all the trans surgeries and all that. I feel it's confusing and it's an attack against our children. And of course, you know, all the pornography that's going on. And it's just the enemy always goes after children because they're made in the image of God. So I think we have a lot of things to stand up for and to speak out against and to speak for in the name of Christ, to be positive. But we're in a war, and we've always been in a war, and we've known that. The Bible tells us that we're in a not flesh and blood war, we're in a spiritual battle. But I think it's never been more clear to me how big the battle is.
Mm.
I also really am encouraged deeply by, I do some vocal coaching at a local university, private one-on-one, and I'm around some of the younger generation in their 20s. They are hungry in a way that I haven't seen in a while for the things
Mhm.
of God. And there's a hunger. I think Charlie Kirk really inspired a lot of young men to
Yeah.
look at the Bible again, look at who they could be as men of God. And I think he gave a lot of young men a whole new fire for faith and for the Lord that is extremely encouraging. In the middle of
Mhm.
all this, I think that the gospel is spreading like wildfire across the world. The largest church right now is in Iran.
Yeah.
When we
Yeah.
see what's going on and we're holding the Bible in one hand and looking at the news in the other, it's like so fascinating to be alive right now But I don't know about you guys. I feel the spiritual battle and the darkness pressing around all the time, just kind of at a low level. So I think, we have to stay in the word. I'm very distressed with the deconstructionist
Yeah.
movement that's happening, because I think one of my favorite verses in the Bible is John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. I think if you start taking the Word apart, you're literally taking Christ apart.
That's right.
And
Right.
I think that has been really like, what? So I would just say I think more than ever, I want to encourage all of us, all of us to stay in the Word every day. That's how we'll know the truth, the fact from the fake, and to find a very strong small group or church that you can be accountable with, that can walk with you personally, and a pastor that will really exposit the word in light of the culture. Because I really don't have much patience anymore for pastors who aren't willing to talk about what's going on around us. Uh, it's a drumbeat. And we have a chance now to really, I think, both win more hearts to Christ, but also to defend the gospel more than we've had to in the past.
Right.
So I feel like there's an awful lot to look at there, and um, God's will be done. But I think we all have a chance to be part of that more courageously than we have been, for me anyway, in the past. I think my generation just tended to think things would work out more.
Right.
Abortion might go away, or it's just
Right.
intensified. And it's like, wait a minute, we got to stand up and say, not be militant, not be violent, but just say no. This is not right as a human being to kill children in the womb. This is not right in any way, to distort their sexuality when they're 5 and 6 and 7 years old, to have genitals mutilated and taken off their bodies. I never thought I'd live to see this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
That
I-
Overton window
Yes.
has shifted in our lifetime for
it
sure.
really has. It's shifted, and I think God knew we were going to live at this time.
Of
So
course.
I think He's equipped each one of us to be part of praying against it, standing against it, and to stand for the truths of the Bible more than ever. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's my
Bonnie,
speech.
we appreciate your strong voice and just your
Oh, thank
courage
you.
to speak out, and through your songs and through your books and your podcast and everything that you are continuing to do
Yes.
in
Love
these
that
years.
passion. Love the
Yes.
passion behind it all.
You have encouraged me so much today. I can't thank you enough, both of you.
We usually do a recipe at the end
Oh,
of
a
our
recipe.
podcast.
Gosh,
So, so do you have a recipe, Bonnie?
kind of a summer, I saw that, and I've got a summer idea that I love. And
Okay.
it's you take like 4 or 5 ears of corn, boil them for 2 minutes, and take them off the heat. Let them cool. You do that thing where you have to scrape it all off. It takes a while.
Yeah.
All the kernels. And then
Yeah.
I mix in black olives that are chopped up, small red tomatoes, Vidalia onions chopped up, with a lime and honey dressing kind of thing with some garlic. It is so
Mm.
good. And you put it in the refrigerator and let it chill. I love
Wow.
it. Oh, and avocado. Got to put avocado in it. Sorry.
Avocado.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Like a little
That's
corn
a good.
salad.
Yeah.
Like.
It's
Love
a cold
that.
corn salad, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, we've had a couple of different things lately here,
We
haven't
have.
we? Yeah. So
Yeah, we
with
had
our
ceviche the other day.
yeah,
Is that
yeah.
how you say
I think
it?
so.
You had what? You
We're
had
just
what?
Southern cooks, you know. We don't-
Right.
Yes,
Right.
me too. Me
Well,
too.
thank you so
All
much
right.
for being a part of our podcast. I know our audience will certainly enjoy this
Yes,
episode.
absolutely. Thanks again, Bonnie, and we'll have you on again if you'll come talk to us some
Too.
more. So
Please do. And thank you. And God bless all that you're doing. And God bless your
Thank you.
listeners. Yes.
thank you, Bonnie. We'll see y'all next time on the Stir It Up podcast.
Thank you for joining us today. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all.